What's up, sons? We've all seen them, those $2,000 Skylake builds with GTX 1080s. I've never done that. But what if you want some of the latest features from Intel and you want new equipment, but you don't want to spend an arm and a leg for it? I built this gaming PC for my daughter, so I didn't want to go all out, but at the same time I wanted 1080p 60 FPS performance in current AAA titles. Therefore, I present to you all the $600 Skylake gaming PC. All the parts can be purchased brand new off of Amazon or Newegg, and I will leave both a PC parts picker list down below, as well as my Amazon affiliate link if you don't mind purchasing through there. Budget builds need to be built more carefully than any other type of build. It's all about balancing parts to reduce bottlenecks for peak performance. While this is true for internals, cases are an interesting one. There are cheap options that are hit or miss. Fortunately, I can tell you that if you have any build experience, the DIY F2 series is competent enough and includes the exact amount of space for this build. Unfortunately, because of some of the sharp edges, I wasn't able to let my daughter build into the case. These sharp areas are around the motherboard cutouts, and other than that, the case is fantastic for $24 with rebates and sale prices at Newegg that I got it for. With USB 3.0 port, adjustable rear fan placement, and tinted side window, it's quite the deal on a budget. The heart of the build is the i3-6100. This is pretty much the cheapest CPU I would ever recommend for gaming. The FX series is on its way out and loses out to the 6100 in single core performance, which is still more relevant in gaming performance than core count. It has hyper-threading as well, so games that require 4 cores still boot and run fine. It also supports new features like NVMe and USB-C depending on the motherboard. Speaking of motherboards, the manufacturing process has improved to the point that reputable companies have budget-minded boards that are still reliable. For this build, I chose the Gigabyte GA H110MA because M.2 drives are still too expensive to build into a budget. Losing that support is a necessary evil. RAM is probably going to be a debate. First of all, I had a 32GB Kingston kit. This board only supports 2 DIMM slots and 32GB would be overkill anyways. However, I believe that with the low cost of RAM and high memory usage of browsers means that even budget builds should account for 16GB of RAM. It significantly improves multitasking, which is synonymous with a good gaming experience. Watching streams, voice over IP services, and walkthrough lookups all help to improve this experience. The 2400 MHz on the kit I am using is downclocked to 2133 MHz because of the board. So I have attached a value RAM as my recommendation for this build, and it should not affect performance numbers that you will see later. Storage is an interesting one, and you could build this in many different ways depending on your needs. I already had the SSD now V300 from Kingston from an earlier upgrade to my test bench. To assist with game files, I added a 750GB Western Digital Scorpio Black. If you're looking for pure performance, I would suggest a larger SSD in place of these. If you are looking for more storage, the 1TB SSHD hybrid drives from Seagate are a great option and run about the same price. As stated before, M.2 prices are still a tad high to fit into this build, and our motherboard doesn't support them anyways. Finally, we have the fun part, the graphics card. We are going to go with the Sapphire Radeon RX 470. While the price is the same as the RX 480 in theory, real-world buying options for a 4GB RX 480 don't exist at this time. The RX 470 also requires less power, meaning that the total system power consumption is at 308 watts. To power all of this, we will use my favorite budget PSU, power supply unit. The Thermaltake TR2 430 watt has a 5-year warranty and a power switch, which is a plus in the price range that a lot of others do not have. This is important because if you have a non-rated power supply and you don't have a power switch, I have seen them pop as soon as you plug them into the wall when they try to regulate. All BIOS settings are recommended, and there is absolutely no overclocking enabled for the benchmarks. Starting off the benchmarks with 3D Mark synthetic tests, FireStrike gave the system a score of 7,892, which falls perfectly short of VR gaming for 1080p purpose it is built for. TimeSpy rated the system at 3,164. Keep in mind that the standard settings are 1440p, which is definitely out of the range for this system. On to the important results. Real-world gaming situations are impressive and probably not what you would expect from the synthetic test results. Deus Ex Mankind Divided in DirectX 12 at 1080p on high settings was wonderfully playable with a very rare minimum frame rate of 38.3 frames per second, a respectable average of 56, and a max of 71.8 FPS. This is one of the newest games out and shows that this build is ready for 2016 and 2017 gaming. Rise of the Tomb Raider on 1080p on high settings with FXAA had an abnormally low FPS of 22.41, albeit this was only on the second portion of the built-in benchmark test. On the same portion of the benchmark, it also hit its max of 100.8 frames per second. However, the consistent average across all built-in benchmark tests was 75.6 FPS. I honestly thought that Total War Warhammer was totally going to smash the system because of the CPU intensive tasks it has. However, in DirectX 12 on 1080p with high settings including FXAA, the system never dropped below 63 frames per second with a crazy average of 71.4 frames per second and a max of 78 FPS. Gears of War Ultimate Edition is a great example of how much Microsoft is improving on UWP, the Universal Windows Platform. The i3 teamed up with the RX 470 handled it beautifully at 1080p with high settings including high textures, pushing 82 frames per second on average with a low of 66 and a max of 95. In conclusion, you can build a brand new system for $600 and not only have a gaming machine, but have one that provides an enjoyable experience on high settings at 1080p. Some limitations would be multitasking, as the i3 will perform great in games as long as you aren't doing anything else with it. This includes something as simple as installing a game, and with the game's drive being mechanical, it wouldn't be a viable option to do that anyways. Upgrading the CPU cooler in this build is admittedly not necessary. The stock Intel cooler will work. However, it really wakes up the visual appeal of the build and provides some peace of mind. There are situations where in long gaming sessions with a smaller form factor, it could cause some throttling on the i3, which would be detrimental to frame rates. This build is perfect for day-to-day tasks and gaming. Because it is for my daughter, there is no intention of using it for content creation in any form. If you just want to game, this is for you. However, if you're wanting to create content or do some recording or light editing, you'll want to raise the budget for at least an i5. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you would change in the build down below. Be kind, please. And be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you next Tuesday.